Hello, everyone. It's your favorite pseudo-intellectual Lord Hellespont V. Welcome to the after show, where I will talk a little bit about my recent experience in the Breguet boutique here in Beverly Hills, of all places, and see if we can make sense of my recent obsession with this particular watch, Breguet Marine. Um, hey, Pluto, Mathis, Alex, welcome everyone. I'm gonna actually post the link because I think it's a conversation that's much more fun if it's had as a collective. But if no one else really jumps on, I'm happy to talk a little bit about this recent experience of actually examining in person the Breguet Marine 5517 in white gold with the blue wave dial and some other models from the Marine line, which were all really beautiful and really unique. Um, Unfortunately, and this particular photo might mislead you in that sense, I actually wasn't allowed to take any photos or videos in the boutique. And I was actually treated and accompanied and helped by and cared for by this very kind and beautiful sales associate who asked me kindly not to take pictures, but that wasn't before I snapped a few shots of the seating arrangements uh, and some of the surroundings, which didn't come out that well. So it's a little disappointing to say that I didn't actually catch any pictures of the watch. And I'll try to explain why that's so disappointing. Because I am a Rolex fanboy in many ways, but I do appreciate my Omega watches as well. And I remember when I first saw the Seamaster Professional when they came out with that automatic movement finally with that wave dial. It was just something to behold. I thought it was really unique. And as far as I know, uh, those earlier wave dials are actually rose milled. So they are hand-gouilloché. And immediately I was taken back to that time when I first saw the Breguet Marine 5517. This watch comes in any number of configurations, right? Different kinds of metals. There's a titanium version that's much more accessible than the precious metals. But the white gold and rose gold come with that beautifully executed hand guilloche dial that is this beautiful wave design, right? On the white gold, you have uh, this blue dial that goes with it that has the hand guilloche at the center of the dial. You can see that you have also the sportier version of the Breguet hands that are loomed at the tip. And you have Roman numeral indexes that are applied and are also loomed. I guess I would have loved to see this particular watch as purely a three-hander without perhaps the date function even. But honestly, the way they put that date window in an asymmetric fashion, and at least made sure that it matches in color with the rest of the dial rather than sticking out in white as it does with some other sports models, other sports luxury watches. I think in general, this is a very uniform and beautiful design. And I did say it was love at first sight. So just not to interrupt that for too long, um, I just want to get out of the way what I kind of don't like about the watch, right? None of it sounds like a deal breaker to me just yet. But as I think about it, there are a few things that kind of bother me about the watch, and they keep nagging at me a little bit for now. So let me get them out of the way. First of all, of course, this is a watch uh, that has a nautical theme, right? There's no mistake about that. It has a wave dial. It is a model that is called Marine. Uh, but on top of all that, the crown is decorated with these two details that look like a propeller. Let me try to find a picture of that. So when you look at the crown of this Marine 5517, let me see. I found a picture of it in rose gold, so that will have to do for now. You see, you have these details right next to the crown that make it look like a propeller. So you have the wave dial, you have a crown that's designed to look like a propeller, and then you have, as your rotor weight for the movement in the back, you have half ship's wheel. So there's a certain sense that, allow me the pun, that they have gone overboard a little bit with the maritime theme. It seems a little too much at a certain level. I would have loved them to have toned it down just a little bit. Perhaps have the rotor in a beautifully decorated and detailed and guillochéd yellow gold or rose gold, or even matching material in white gold. It's a little too on the nose for me when it comes to this particular design, right? Yes, the model is called Marine. Yes, it has a wave dial, but did it also have to have a propeller as its crown? Did it also have to have ship's wheel as its rotor? I'm not sure. I think we could have done without at least one of these options. Now that we have that out of the way, let's go back to that beautiful dial. I have really loved it, especially on the rubber strap. I think there's something beautifully disjointed, even dysfunctional, about having a precious metal watch on a rubber band. And this is not something like an oyster flex, right? There's nothing incredibly fancy about it. It has very nice texture. Uh, it is good material, but this is a rubber bracelet, right? There's not the kind of uh, titanium alloy reinforcement that Rolex puts into their Oyster Flex watches. By the way, as a side note, I'm drinking today Lecheik 10, which is an island single malt. I really like my peaty scotches, but I'm trying to broaden my horizons a little bit and try to sample some of the single malts that have this peaty flavor range, but that don't necessarily belong to Islay. So Lecheik, which is the peated version of the Tobermory distillery, and which comes from the Isle of Mull, is a great option, and it's relatively affordable. If you're in the US, in California especially, you'll be able to get a bottle of this in mid-50s. So it's a very good option, especially if you compare it to some of the heavyweights in that division, right? Like your Lagavulin 16, so on and so forth. So it's a very affordable version. And I'm just to fit the maritime theme, I'm wearing the 5513 meters first sub on a nice NATO strap. That really, I think that shade of gray really complements a vintage sub. And I like the fact that this strap has brushed material rather than shiny. So it really, really brings out what I like best about this watch. So let's go back to that dial. The pictures just don't do it much justice. I think, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, when you look at it from all these different angles, when you actually examine it from these different perspectives, under artificial light, under natural light, it shimmers in such a way, it's as if you're contemplating the sea. And again, I'm sorry to be so cheesy, so predictable, but this hand-gouilloché with all these different textures and sizes of the waves is so well executed that it really deserves to be mentioned on the dial, right? As they did here, Swiss Guilloché Ma. This is a hand guilloché, and it does bring me back to those moments when I was admiring a much more humble watch, Omega Seamaster Professional, when they brought out that rose milled, what I guess was a hand guilloché wave dial. But this is something that has a little more artistic value, something that is infused with more heightened aesthetics, and it's really beautiful work. And I still feel very much pissed that they didn't allow me to even take pictures of this beautiful watch, of this beautiful dial, much less make videos of it. I think I will go again and try to push them. And I've also gotten the personal cell phone number of the sales associate. So I will send her another message to ask, you know, I know you didn't let me take the pictures, but perhaps you can make some pictures and take some videos of the watch for me and send it over. I'm not asking for nudes, right? It's a much more reasonable request than that. So I've had a woman oblige for much less reasonable requests. So this seems very reasonable. Alex asks me, "Are you considering buying one, Lord?" Yes, I am, and you all are supposed to talk me out of it. I think if you can. I have these moments with certain watches, and that's why I wanted to propose this topic. specifically as a more general conversation about hype sports watches, hype luxury sports watches, and especially those with a blue dial, because I never really bought into it, so to speak. Among all those sports watches, all those luxury steel sports watches, the one that I really liked was always the original Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo 5402, which of course has more of a slate blue / gray kind of dial, right? The texture of the tapisserie, and of course the patina that the years put on a lot of those dials have made it look more grayish than blue at any rate. And when it came to a steel luxury sports watch, the one that at some point I really wanted to buy was actually the Aquanaut in on a rubber strap. And I turned a very nice example down that was on a steel bracelet, but that's really a story for another time or maybe later in the stream. But I do want to focus on this. So this is something that I admired from far, and I think it's really a model that sets itself apart from a lot of the other watches, right, in that particular category. I do like the Lange Odyssey, meaning that I appreciate it also in the sense that it sits apart. It set itself apart from the other luxury steel sports watches, and it is very recognizably Lange, right? You look at that watch, before you say that it is a hype sports watch, you will say that it is a Lange, right? You have the design language on it that's written all over the place, right? And yes, it has the blue dial. Yes, it is executed in steel, but ultimately, when you look at that watch, it is first and foremost a Lange watch, right? The Odysseus. And in a similar sense, right, when we look at the Breguet Marine 5517, it's not trying to be something that it isn't, right? It is a recognizably Breguet watch. It has two options, as I mentioned, right? It does come on a matte blue crocodile strap, and this blue textured rubber strap. As far as I know, they can actually source for you the other strap, the other option. If you were to buy it in rubber, you can get the leather as well. But it does have a pretty unique changing mechanism that would require you to bring it over to them or a master watchmaker to change the straps. I don't think it can really be a home cooked solution. But when it comes to the design language, right, I know it doesn't necessarily have the Breguet numerals. On the other hand, when you look at this watch from that soldier shot, so to speak, right from across, you see the hands, and they look pretty Breguet to me, right? It doesn't have the Breguet numerals, the Arabic numerals. It has Roman numerals, but still the layout of the dial, the shape of the case, even with the extensions that connect it to the strap with the X-ray extension here, even then, it does have this particular case design that is unmistakably Breguet. And you see Hodinkee, as they always do, has taken good pictures that you can see how the dial transforms from one shot to another, from one angle to another. You see how beautiful the movement is. Sorry to have disturbed it like that. How you have the Côte de Genève scalloped out. And if you could zoom, unfortunately, this picture doesn't really allow me to zoom much further. You also see how there are also marks of engine turn on those Geneva waves. And again, I've hit it a little bit on the ship's wheel rotor, but at least it has the virtue of displaying as much as the movement as possible. So at least you can peek through that rotor, which charges up your watch, and still contemplate and admire the movement, the watchmaking and the finishing and decoration that went into this watch, right? You can see the engine turns, the perlage around as well. In this case, it's right under the rotor, if I'm not mistaken. It's just a very, very uniquely Breguet watch. I'm just realizing that I clicked on a picture and I actually didn't follow on the share screen, so I apologize. I was talking about this here with the Côte de Genève that also has the marks of the engine turn on it. Right under the rotor here, you have the perlage decorations, as you can peek through here, as you can see through here. And the virtue of the ship's wheel rotor is, as it charges up the watch, you can still see through it and observe and contemplate and admire the watchmaking that went into making this wristwatch, and admire the finishing and decoration as well. It's quite beautiful. They also showed me something that was very unique in this range. I want to share that too. It's the reference 5547, which is something they call Marine Alarme Musicale. And there we are. They have the same dial. Same configuration, basically. It is an alarm watch. It's when you set it up, it rings for about 20-25 seconds. This is where you see if it's on or off, right? This is the power reserve for the alarm, which is charged in the same way as your watch by the same mechanism. And it also has a GMT function here, as you can see. Right? It has the date, of course, the same hand-gouilloché dial, but it has these two sub-registers of different sizes that give you here a second time zone, and that also give you in the smaller sub-register the AM/PM sign. If you were to, I think there's a nice little video of it where you can have a sense of how it sounds. this is what I was talking about, by the way, when I said a few random things about the design language, right? You know, this is how the crown looks like a propeller, and this fluted edges of that watch case, again, like a coin edge of sorts. It's very recognizably Breguet, right? You know, you see a wristwatch, but it has kind of the vibe, the feel, and somewhat the appearance of a pocket watch, transformed, or rather converted into a wristwatch, right? And I could wax poetic about, again, the heritage of Breguet as the inventors of the tourbillon, as the first company to produce an automatic movement. I could say all these different things about Breguet, and the Breguet hands that are immediately recognizable, the Arabic numerals on the dial. At the end of the day, I'm going to spare you that, because today's Breguet is, of course, ultimately a brand in the Swatch Group, right? It might be one of their crown jewels, so to speak. It might be their high horology brand, but I think it still doesn't take away from the fact that it belongs to this corporate giant. MLMJ, hello. It's and Mario Vieira, I'm really honored to have you. I think this is the first time I see you on my channel, and I'm really happy to see you here. And MLMJ, I do love Breguet as well. I was just saying that I don't even need that whole mythology and historical narrative about the brand's heritage, right? I like seeing the product, and I like recognizing it as Breguet and not just another sports watch with a blue dial. And I do agree with Alex that this is a busier dial. I do like the 300 with date a little better. That's the design language that I prefer. However, I've also, especially since I have recently brought the reverser grand date into my life, which has a very quirky and asymmetric dial, I've become a little more used to these busier dials, especially if they don't feel very contrived and very symmetrical in a certain way. So this is something that intrigued me. Of course, it's an entirely different price range, right? At the list price, we were sitting at 28.6 US dollars for the white gold blue dial version. And when it comes to this alarm watch, Alarme Musicale 5547, we're talking about a $40,000 watch, right? It's a different price range, but it was really beautiful, and I'm sure you're going to get a feel of it in the video, to see it vibrating and sounding out. What? Okay, well, that's ridiculous. I thought after all that video, they would integrate the alarm into it, but I guess we will have to pull up a few seconds of the Hodinky video so I can actually show it to you. And since I talk over it and break it into a few different parts, it shouldn't be a problem. But yes, I remember, I forgot now one of the aspects of it. The déployant, the buckle on on the watch is also a ship's wheel. So there's something to be said about overdoing the maritime or nautical references. So it's a little, it goes a little overboard. Let's see. No, it wasn't the Hodinkee one. Sorry, it was the 2018 presentation that was done by Watch Advisor. And you have here
Billion an alarm you can set independently up to 12 hours in advance.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And it's going to ring for about 22 seconds.
So we'll make that ring.
So we'll make it ring now.
Yeah, we can try.
Okay, let's go.
you see how it's vibrating and beating. And I'm sure they chose the rose gold because that probably produces a sound that's slightly warmer than the white gold case. And you see how the power reserve is going out slowly but surely. It's full when it's down.
And you can stop it.
It's a very playful function. It's also nice to feel it on your wrist. It's not a minute repeater or anything much more complicated like that. But ultimately, I thought it was quite neat. Perhaps not worth that sort of price difference for me. And as Alex said, perhaps I'm not really that in love with the asymmetric dial, but ultimately I think it's still a beautiful piece, and I was happy to be able to try it on in the boutique. Steel Stunner, Big Meat says as the very first words out of his mouth. Please join me, guys, if you would like. Night, you too. Alex, I know you have been going through some tough times, and I hope everyone is okay. I hope you were able to reach to more people by now. I hope you're also finding some escape and refuge from everything else here. But the people in Ukraine and Russia are, of course, in our prayers. Yes, Big Meat said Steel Stunner, but actually the watches I was showing were in precious metal, in white gold and rose gold. There is also a titanium version of the same model, a titanium version with a full titanium bracelet as well. I didn't warm up to it as quickly, and there are a couple of reasons for that. I guess again, for at that price point, I feel like I am looking for something a little more precious. Sorry to push that, but I have to, I have to say it. But more importantly, I think I just didn't find this sunburst dial that is also guilloché, that's also hand guilloché, but I just didn't find it as intriguing, as interesting, as captivating as I found the wave dial. And again, they do have, they do have different versions of this on the leather strap, on the rubber strap, with a full bracelet. But I think this just looks better in precious metal. It's a watch that I think kind of demands to be in precious metal. And in white gold on a rubber strap, just that contrast to me, the contrast in material, the contrast in the sportiness and casualness of the band with the weight, warmth and dignity of the material, the different dimensions of the dial, the visual interest of the waves in the middle, the loom. I think, you know, again, otherwise this watch really screams Breguet, but it had to have something to make it a little more distinct. And I think the Roman numerals filled with loom and these redesigned Breguet hands that are also loomed at the tip just give it that extra push. And as much as I said in the beginning that the nautical theme is overdone a little bit, because it's not just the model name, not just the dial, but also the crown and the rotor weight, and you know, the buckle that's made to remind you of the sea. But anyways, with all those nitpicks and qualms, I still have this stuck in my mind. And I'm pretty sure they would try to sell it to me at full retail in the boutique without even giving me anything, perhaps just sparkling water or something. But in the secondary market, actually, you can find it for 20–25% off. I've seen many examples of it at Chrono24, which again is just a guide, right? I haven't really delved into researching the market and digging out certain examples and trying to find where they actually physically are, rather than just being randomly advertised with stock pictures. And go out and actually try them and see them and see what kind of condition they are in. MLMJ says, there is a steel piece that's 5817. I don't think it has the same dial. And I think it's discontinued, right? Let's see. I think it is discontinued. Right, this is an earlier model. It has a different dial and it is now discontinued. But again, we were just talking about the secondary market, so I would not discount that as an option for sure. But it is a different watch. So for someone like me who was really pulled in with certain elements of this one, I'm not sure if I can be happy with it, even though I like this style as well. And I'm always intrigued by the two, double date window, the big date aperture, that always gets me. So I can't say no to this either. It feels great on the wrist, as Night Diver said. Rubber feels great on the wrist. White gold feels great on the wrist. I also tried the chronograph version on, which is a little bigger, but even that sits really well on the wrist. And the watch is designed again like a thick coin in many ways. But it's the way the lugs are playing with the case, it actually sits pretty well. And my wrist is not very big at all. So this is how a late 60s Submariner sits on it. And the 40 millimeter 300 with date version of this watch wasn't really all that much different. MLMJ says the steel is discontinued, but much better than 5517. They should have stuck with the steel bezel. Fair point. The rotor in 5817 is white gold as well as the dial. I think the dial was white gold in that, but the rotor was in yellow gold. But again, I think that was a nicer rotor than the ship's wheel rotor they did for this one. And again, I think this is also gold, but it's not a decorated and guilloché rotor, which I think this kind of watch really calls for. You know, if you are creeping up to 30K there for a sports watch, I think these kinds of little extra touches do make a difference. GB Von says Breguet recommend servicing every 3 years. Indeed, they do, I think, and I'm sure they will charge an arm and a leg for it. Night Diver says, I'm a little bit of a blue collar guy, like plastic. I can't do precious metal. Never say never, but yeah, it is a very different price point. And look, the watch has 10 bar water resistance, but it's not going to be like a contemporary Submariner or another Oyster case Rolex sports watch. Alex asks GB Vol, how are their service costs? I'm guessing quite expensive. Knight says, sorry, I can't join tonight. I'm just killing a few minutes waiting on the wife or to have a few drinks, I guess. Much respect, man. Enjoy your time with the family. Night Diver says, Sabi looks killer, Lord. You guys are too kind. You know, it just, more than anything, it's this kind of stuff that I'm here for. I love this watch. And, you know, at some level, you know, we keep saying that, you know, we buy these watches for ourselves, we wear these watches for ourselves, and this is what they mean to me. And I don't really care whatever anyone else says. All of that goes out of the window when someone compliments meaningfully your watch. You know, like it looks killer, and I loved how that NATO strap fits with it. I absolutely agree. Right, I love wearing this on its bracelet. I love wearing it on a leather strap, but when it comes to wearing it casually, you know, just around the house, I'm gonna go and cook for a little bit in about 10-15 minutes. So when I'm doing something like that, when I'm doing household tasks, I like being light, you know, so no leather strap, no steel bracelet, just NATO. And yeah, just that little detail of having these brushed metal on the strap rather than the usual shiny stuff they have on NATOs. I think it just fits, right? People love saying it pops. It doesn't pop at all, right? It's I like calling this one also kind of after my father, the gray eminence, right? So this is my nickname for the watch. It's like a silver fox. It's the dial and the bezel have matted out to this slate gray, which plays off beautifully with the NATO. And the way you can, you know, really strap it down with the NATO, it sits so close to the wrist and sits so nicely that it's just perfect. It can be really discreet. It can slide under a cuff, and the profile becomes suddenly so much more stealthy. And yeah, vintage subs, unlike the contemporary versions, are not very thick watches. So they can certainly straddle many different ends of the spectrum, right? It is obviously a sports watch, but you know, if I were actually wearing this shirt properly rather than sleeves rolled up, even with all that extra mess and fabric of a NATO strap, you can see how it tucks in, right? So no one has to see it if you don't want to. And you can have it a little more casual, of course, just by popping open the button rather than rolling up the sleeve all the way. But either way, it's just a beautiful watch. And thanks for letting me play around with it, and letting me talk about this watch in this way. I know Joy is going to join me in a little bit. Night Diver, good night. I hope I didn't miss you before I said good night to you, but I'll talk to you later, I'm sure. I'm going to see you here again, I'm sure. And I really appreciate your support and presence. Yeah, it does actually fit under the cuff very nicely. That's one of the reasons I also very much enjoy vintage Rolexes, right? Again, they're recognizably sports watches. They're really fun. But honestly, you don't need to be Sean Connery to pull it off as a dress watch. I'm not saying that I'm not saying to you to wear your sub if you are invited to a black tie event in the next, winter/holiday season. I'm not really telling you that, but honestly, these things can go for so many different occasions, and the fact that it is a sleeker profile, I think, just allows it to be more than just a tool watch, more than just a sports watch. Right, so I have this gray, for example, gray textured calf skin leather one with the Rolex buckle. I use this mostly for my Datejust with the silver dial, but I think the contrast stitching is so sporty that it can certainly be used with a vintage sub like this as well. I got this from Analog Shift, which it's a place, it's a dealer out of New York, if I'm not mistaken. I dealt with them online. They specialize in vintage watches, but they have a decent accessory collection, and their leather straps are pretty good and relatively affordable. And I also love wearing, I love wearing it on this alligator strap. That's like a dark brown / even burgundy, and it's very ratty now. I should get a replacement. But as dressy as it is, it also has this nice padding, which balances out beautifully that particular happy medium that I was talking about between a sports watch and a dress watch. Mike P says, any recommended NATO straps, Lord? Let me check it out. Let me see if I can remember the name of this website, because I'm almost sure that they're still in existence. But there's so many different companies, secondary dealers, gray market dealers, boutiques, accessory makers, that I keep mixing them up, and they all have similar names, if you ask me. So I don't want to mislead you. I think I found it. I did. Yes. So this is a website that's called Crown and Buckle. I'm posting the link right here. And this particular NATO strap that I found very reliable and very wearable and quite high quality, to be honest, is from their Supreme NATO series. That's the link I posted for, but you'll see that their selection runs the whole gamut. And if I remember correctly, because I've had this NATO strap for a while now, I think it comes pretty soft on arrival. I know that's one of our qualms with certain NATO straps, that they can be a little rough on the edges when they first arrive, that you have to wear them quite a bit before they break in. So if I remember correctly, this was not the case with the NATO straps that I got from Crown and Buckle. I'm not, I'm not sponsored by them at any rate, at least not at this stage. Sponsor me, Crown and Buckle. I love your straps. I love your NATO straps. That being said, I would still heartily recommend them because I had this for a while and I've been really happy with it. And I like the way it wears so casually and so softly. I'm sure if you, when it comes to softening up your new NATO straps, I've never particularly tried this trick, but now that I'm thinking on my feet, I'm really assuming that, if you just prepare some lukewarm water, not piping hot, but warm water, and put your straps in there for half an hour to an hour, I think they should come out a little broken in. You can spread a towel and dry them on that towel on both sides for a little bit. Yeah, if that's something that you just can't get over and you don't want to wait for too long to break them in, try that and report back to me. For me, I don't really mind, but I do sometimes worry because when they're so rough, when the NATO straps are so rough when they first arrive, I kind of feel like, they maybe scratch the watch a little bit when you're putting them in. So I try to be really careful to avoid that, but I feel like they can. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm always very careful when I'm doing these kinds of things with the watches, when I'm tinkering a little bit, popping out the straps, changing them around, playing with certain looks, changing the bezel once every so often. Although the bezel inserts I usually leave to the watchmaker, and it's something I only do seasonally, really, rather than too frequently. But in either case, I always try to be very careful. I don't really use metal tools at all. The toothpick is more than enough with vintage watches that have the Holz case when it comes to Rolex. It takes you about 15 seconds really to change it out. I mean, I can actually demonstrate this. It's on the NATO strap now. I can just take out that NATO strap. Pull it out carefully. Since I already have the pins in there, I will take them out first. Oh, of course, now that I'm on camera, last time I did it well, but this time they don't want to come out. Every time I do something like this, again, I'm reminded of one of the Archie classics, Spa Day for JLC Reverso, where he starts cursing at the lug pins because they don't want to come out. I'm really wasting the toothpicks here. All right, I give up for now. I'll be right back. All right, I was about to have a meltdown off screen, but I successfully took it out. So now the bracelet comes in with the help of the master's tools. Joe.
Hey, what's going on, Lord?
Hey, I was putting on the bracelet for my watch, but not having a very successful time. Still struggling. How are you?
I'm just setting all my watches, resetting all my watches for the week here. So,
Oh, you have them in a proper cycle?
I try to, yeah.
And what does that entail? Do you have them designated to particular days or times?
So I start off the week by making sure they're all set to the right time. So, and I will kind of base it off the week here. So this week is, I think, fairly busy for me. I have to look at my schedule. I know I've got an appointment tomorrow, and that one's going to be fairly casual. Then I think I've got a couple meetings with the law firm. So typically I make sure the Cartier, the JLC is ready to go and on deck, and so on and so forth. And I want to make sure everything's kind of on time. That way I can just grab it and get out the door.
Yep.
Steel. He's got it back on the steel.
It's back to being a steel stunner again. Yeah. So you have the JLC and your Santos in rotation for the week because you have more formal occasions?
Yeah, semi-formal. Yep. See, I always like to get my watches down to the minute, and some people just kind of round up. So, like, right now it's 10:24, and I know a lot of people will go, "Ah, fuck it, 10:25." Me, I don't. To me, that kind of drives me nuts. Unless I'm in a rush, I'll always get it down to the minute. And one thing I've learned here, the Cartier is a bit of a pain in the ass for my old man eyes because your dial indices are so close together and so tiny that getting it on the like actual minute can be a bit of a struggle, honestly. But it's doable. Takes a little bit longer, but it's doable.
Yeah, I do care, and I do try to be specific and precise, but yeah, I err on the side of it being ahead a little bit. You know, sometimes I do set my watches to be running 2-3 minutes faster.
Right.
You know, I never lost out on an opportunity because I was there, you know, 4 or 5 minutes earlier than I should be. Whereas I did arrive late and miss out on certain things.
It's kind of embarrassing to admit, but so I, right now I am applying for part-time jobs right now, just to pass time and whatnot. And I used a Submariner, and I picked it up to start the day off, and I didn't look at the time. I thought it was still running in ordnance. I had a job interview at I think it was at 10:30, and he was running about 15 minutes slow. And I left the house. I looked at my watch. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got time. And the job interview is about 45 minutes away. And I get in the truck and I'm just doing a lazy drive, thinking like, yeah, I've got plenty of time. I'm ahead of schedule. I look at the dial, like the dash dial of the truck, and I see it's like 50, like 5 minutes away from the interview, and I'm like 15 minutes out. I'm like, oh fuck. I've done that a couple times, more than I care to admit, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but yeah, it happens. It happens, that, and I understand why you want to be precise now.
Well, it's not really that. It's just principle. But it's one thing to have a watch that's behind. It's another thing to be it's a little bit more embarrassing. Like when you're wearing a Rolex, it's like 15. You have to explain why you're late. But out of curiosity, Lord, you have a lot of vintages. So vintages are known to be historically off. It doesn't matter what the brand is. How forgiving are you? Like how many minutes can you forgive? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending.
Yeah, and again, I don't abide by what the brands and watchmakers necessarily tell me, because at the end of the day, of course, and I don't blame them for it, but they want the business, right? So they would rather have you surrender your watch to them every 3 years, every 5 years, at most, and they will want to change anything and everything they can. So the watch becomes more utilitarian and more of a tool watch than it is. Rolex particularly has this obsession with making everything functional to the fullest extent.
Right.
I disagree with that. To me, I never send my watches in for repair unless I can feel something is wrong with them, unless they come to a full stop. And I'm pretty forgiving. Again, usually how I do it is when I set my watches, I put them at least 2-3 minutes away, fast, 2-3 minutes ahead, I wanted to say. And at the end of the day, I really don't care. I don't even measure for the most part. They are, again, I've never been late with that tactic to anything. It's never been a concern for me. Same thing with my Seikos, for example, the SKXs. They're notorious for not keeping time well at all. And I never had trouble with them because, again, I usually wear them in contexts where I really don't have to care about time in that particular precise way. I can be 5 minutes early, 5 minutes late because, hey, I'm on the beach. The most important thing I will do is I'll go and get some French fries to pig out. So
Right. No. Yeah. Exactly. You need to know what time happy hour begins and ends.
right. So same thing with my daily wear as well. I do, if I have a really important engagement, I'm not shy. I'm not embarrassed to check the time on my phone as well. But
Right.
I've never seen them when they're in good condition, serviced by a capable watchmaker. My watch has never failed me in any significant way in less than 5 years, and usually they last for much longer. Like Rolex watches, if they are serviced by an expert watchmaker, they won't need service for 7, 8, 10 years. I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Would it help in certain cases to send it to just a quick tune-up? Yeah, yes. And in the way it would help that you have your annual health checkup. So if something is actually wrong with you, they catch it early, right?
Right.
It
Right.
helps.
Absolutely.
It helps them to grease up the movement once every so often, for sure. But do you need to really send in your watch for a full service every 3 years, every 5 years? Probably not. If they know what they're doing in the first place, and if you're working with a reliable movement, you don't need anything more frequently than 5, 6 years or more when it comes to watches of this caliber and quality.
You see, I get why some people sometimes freak out, like with a Rolex. They say like, oh, shit, I just bought this new Submariner. It's like 23 seconds off, or a minute off. I get that to a degree. I mean, you spend 10K and you buy a new watch. You want the thing to be accurate down to the nuts. But especially if you get into the higher brands like Vacheron, Audemars, Patek, you want that thing to be down to the second for the amount of money you drop on there. But I say for 5,000 and under, I'm not gonna gripe if the watch, like right now my sub's about 2 minutes off. But I'm not gonna really gripe about that. You've got I think Omegas are probably the more interesting ones to kind of say it, because everyone says Omega collectors are just a little bit backwards and weird. And I find that to be true, as an Omega owner myself as well. But they'll complain, like they'll do a legitimate complaining if their watch, like their Aquaterra Seamaster or whatever, is off by like a minute, or if it's not keeping time correctly for at the end of the week, if it's a little slow, 30 seconds slow. To me, that's a bit obsessive. But I get it as well. But to me, I'm a little bit more forgiving. It's like, who gives a shit? You're a minute off, 2 minutes off. If you're 5 minutes off, you got a problem.
I don't even have that luxury, Mitch, because like this one, for example, it doesn't have hacking. So I certainly can't set it down to the exact second. It's just not possible because the seconds don't hack, right? So the closest I can get at any rate is the minute. And from there, if it strays, over the week, 2 minutes, let's say, I've never seen it stray away that far when it comes from a watchmaker and over the years. But if it does, that's not how I grew up with these watches. And I did, in many ways, I've been collecting watches since my early 20s. So, I have grown up with 5513 and 6575 3. So, and those watches, I didn't always have the time and the resources to get them serviced properly. So they spent a lot of time not being serviced and regulated in certain ways. And still, I was never faced with that sort of malfunction, I would say. Like, it was never a few minutes off from when I set it up.
Right. I guess overall in general, who gives a shit if your watch is like a minute to 2 minutes off? For the most part, if your watch is under 5,000, I don't mean that to be insulting for all means, but Of course, it's a big problem if you got like a grand stick of quartz and something 2 minutes off. Yeah, then you got a problem there. But and especially, I get a kick out of the guys who, no disrespect, but they have a watch that's under $1,000 and they complain like, oh, it's 3 minutes off, or 3 minutes fast, 3 minutes slow. It's like, with all due respect, the watch is it's about $500 watch, $300 watch. Don't be so hard on it. It's doing its thing. Respectfully speaking, it's not going to be the greatest out there, with all due respect.
So two important points. GB Vol says if we are speaking per day, it should be at chronometer standards. It's 6 seconds plus and minus. Absolutely. But remember again, at that time, 5512 was the chronometer certified watch. They had the same movement, but 5512 actually went to get certified, whereas 5513 was basically the budget model, right? It wasn't chronometer certified, and it wasn't regulated in that way. It wasn't tested in that way, and it had only 2 lines on the dial because of that. It didn't have the chronometer certification that added 2 more lines to the 5512 dial. So the provenance of the watch already is something that affected me in a certain way to not care as much. It doesn't have hacking seconds, so I don't really have the luxury to care about 6 seconds plus or minus anyways when I start setting it up myself, setting the time myself, I should say. And yeah, it's never 2 or 3 minutes off per day, that's for sure. And Jay says something very important. Again, the reason I neglect something like this is because most of my watches are just 3-handers. Servicing doesn't equal better timing. Yes, that is called regulation. Major benefit of servicing is for high complications to be rotated and lubed. The more intricate the movement, the less lube is applied. Also finer components. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. But
Lord, I feel like you're right. If you have a 3-hander, if it's in just 5 years, you can probably push the 7, honestly, for a simple 3-hander.
Easily.
Why not?
You can even push it up to a decade. I'm not necessarily recommending people do that. I think, as your watches age, they do need better care, if not more frequent care. But I don't think you just have to send a watch on a regular schedule, at least every 3 years. I think that's just marketing bullshit. That's just a way of extracting more money from you. I think.
I'm curious, Lord, how often would you send your watches in for pressure testing?
Oh, for pressure testing, if I'm taking it to travel, my watchmaker here actually does it for free for me. I just drop in. So it depends. If I'm flying and if I'm going to take this watch with me, I don't swim with my Submariner. I don't take a shower with my Submariner, but that doesn't mean I don't get it pressure tested once every so often. So if I'm taking it to travel, I just go to the watchmaker, and it takes about 15 minutes if he has time. So,
everyone's a little different. I think I'm gonna have to pressure test about every year, because my watches see a fair amount of water. They're not really submerged or anything, but I wash them at least once a week. To get grease, dirt, and grime, especially during the summer. They get washed probably a little bit more frequently than that, especially if they've been around oil, chemicals, things of that nature, which I try and avoid for the most part, but not always. But I think for someone like myself, I do have to get them pressure tested at least once a week. Maybe I know my sub has to go in for service here since it's 2015. That's gonna have to go into service probably next year.
Yeah. Look, Jay, the same person who said like complicated watches, of course, need servicing. My Kermit hasn't been serviced in 14 years. Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to, when it comes to simpler watches, of course, they don't need to be sent in for regular service. But that's a great point, right? You do want them. You do want to make sure that they are sealed properly. You do want to perhaps get a pressure test once every so often, especially if you're exposing them to water. I know some people shower with their watches.
I occasionally do that.
At most, what I do is yeah, I don't really expose them to water. I wash dishes, I cook. That's the closest they get to water. Um, so unless I'm traveling and I'm going to take them with me, I don't really get them checked. So that means maybe once a year, maybe every few months, depending on what kind of schedule I have. That's about it.
Hmm.
What are you eating, Joe?
Stale donuts.
Doesn't look so bad.
Realistically, I shouldn't. My fat ass doesn't need anymore. But you know, I don't like to see food go to waste either.
Right. That's one thing I hate. Um, I don't waste food for sure.
Yeah, I'm really bad at it too. So I mean, like, I'll eat everything. So like, I'll force myself to eat like at least eat chicken once a week. Realistically, I should eat it. I should eat rubber chicken about 5 days a week.
Rubber.
But like, I'll have it like once out of the week, and I'll throw like a pound of chicken away. And, it's fucking depressing. I feel bad, honestly.
Yeah, and of course, chicken, you shouldn't let it go bad at all, and you shouldn't risk it, of course.
Yeah, I'm really finicky with my dad was always more the risque one. Like he'd pull out chicken that was like 2 months old from the freezer. I'm like, throw it away. He's like, no. He said it was in the freezer. I said, and he said, oh, it's still fine as long as it's frozen. I said, no, throw it away. I throw stuff away that was like 2 days past the sell by date. Dad would fucking freak out at me. He's like, what are you doing? So, to each their own, I guess.
It depends what it is, of course. If it's meat, that's one thing. But Jay says furry chicken. Ew.
You
don't want to risk it with meat, and especially with chicken. All that salmonella and other you can get.
I remember one day, my dad came over. So my dad would always come over to my house, and he'd always raid my fridge. And he's sitting there eating the cereal, and he's like, "Oh, this milk tastes funny." I'm like, "Did you check the date?" And the date wasn't his fault. The date was actually up to code, but you twisted the cap off, and you could smell it. I'm like, oof, I took a peek in there. I poured a little out in a glass, and a little chunk came out. I said, Dad, what the fuck? I said, and meanwhile, he's eating like halfway through his cereal bowl already. I was like, Dad, stop eating this shit. You're going to get sick,
When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah, that's my logic.
Yeah, welcome back to the channel, by the way, Jay, since you are there. You're still wearing your Milgos?
No, I put on the Explorer. Like I said, I don't really wear this watch very much, but even for my lady size wrist, the 39 mil, the men's size, of course, fits perfectly. There's no excuse for a man to be wearing a 36 mil Explorer, because a 39 just fits perfectly fine. So,
yeah, I think again, that watch kind of is set apart in the Rolex lineup for me for a while now. The 39 Explorer, I feel it has its own place, because when it comes to 36, of course, the vintage date just and day date range has been like that, and they have their own kind of weight and appearance that pushes them in a different direction. But when it comes to Explorer, I think as much as I like the vintage 4-digit 1016, in the modern lineup, I like the 39 millimeter.
in all honesty, BS aside, I think what they should have done with the Explorer is do what they did with the Oyster Perpetual. Shrink the dial, still a 39 mil case. Enlarge the bezel, make the bezel fatter. Because the 39 Oyster Perpetual looks actually smaller than the Explorer because they shrink the dial. So it looks smaller. It looks like a 38, honestly. I think that's what they should have done. it's still the 39 mil size, which is a sweet spot for a lot of people. And it
Yes,
comes off a lot smaller. I think it would have been the best of both worlds.
because ultimately people love talking about it, especially before Rolex changed things, and now it's advertised as 41 millimeter. People love talking about, Rolex case size being 40 all across the board and across the years, whereas it
Right.
hasn't been like that. A lot of the vintage models are more like a 39 than 40. So I'm actually, yeah, I have an affinity towards Explorer because of that too. It sits more like a vintage Rolex watch on the wrist.
Yeah, and I think 30. A lot of people are a lot of people are saying that 38 to 39 is the more ideal, even over the 40. A lot of people want to see that 30. I mean, I've heard of a few guys wanting to push to 37 mil. You still get arrogant pricks like me who say the 36 mil is a ladies' watch. But bullshit aside, I mean, arguably my Santos my Santos is a 35 mil, and my JLC is probably about the same, if not a little smaller than that. So I mean, who the hell am I to talk? But yeah, I mean, people definitely want to go back to a little bit more smaller, not petite watches, but more compact.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That's like a pendulum swing, as always. There was at some point, especially as Panerai became very popular at some point, the bigger watches were all the rage, and then it started calming down. And maybe, the dress watches had their day again. Um, and now I think we're kind of settling down somewhere in the middle. Like you said, somewhere between 38 to 41, depending on the style of the watch, depending on the occasion for which you would wear it.
Right.
That seems to be the sweet spot for many people, independent of the wrist size.
Right.
And now that I've heard that people are buying, Santos in medium size so they can wear it in common with their wives and significant others, it changes the game a little bit.
Yeah, no, BS aside, it really does. Reality is, yeah, the Santos, for me anyway, is where it's like a true 39. But,
Mhm.
I think even for him, he went with medium size because he said he didn't like the large. The large was actually fairly big on him too. So I think, yeah, for the medium Cartier Santos, it's the perfect his and hers, or his and his, or hers and hers watch. Yeah, it's ideal, and it's mildly, not that hard to get, depending.
Right. His, you said.
Mm.
Does it come with the love bangle?
Yeah, you gotta ask Jamie Opulence on that one. I keep busting his balls over that bracelet.
Look, how beautiful this looks with a dinner jacket. He has a shawl collar dinner jacket. This is Ian Fleming, of course. It's a 1016 vintage, 36 on the full oyster bracelet, and it's right under his cuff there.
I would say this though, he's wearing it actually appropriately though. It wouldn't matter what the watch brand is. I'm old school, like I said. A true, genuine dress watch should always be smaller than your average watch. So if you're gonna try and pass something off as a dress watch, yeah, I'd say 36 is probably that sweet spot for putting it in a black tie event because it's small, dainty, petite, and it doesn't take away from your overall look.
Yeah. Of course, this is not what we're looking at. Where is it? Right here. See, here he's wearing it a little more casually, but he's not yet affected. He belongs to a generation not yet affected by the hormones in the chicken. Speaking of chicken, so he's a little smaller in stature compared to people like us. So for him, casual or formal, I think 36 works quite well. I mean, look at it.
And some brands, when it comes to 36, every brand's a little different. Like Tudor's Black Bay 36, I would argue runs like a 38, because it's Tudor. Tudors are big, beefy, chunky boys. So every 36 is a little bit different, which is actually fairly interesting. So yeah, you can have a lot of fun with 36 mils.
Yeah, this guy seems to be having all sorts of fun. It's a nice portrait. Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. That's an incredibly tacky terry cloth suit that Connery had for part of that Goldfinger movie by the poolside, but I guess it's the 60s, so you could get away with certain things.
But one thing that's a little controversial, I guess, depending, is there's no class nowadays. This is why I choose to wear suits a little bit more frequently. It's because it's against the grain now. Yeah, you kind of you kind of miss the what used to be proper. Like if you're going to go to court, if you're going to go to an establishment, a professional business, you'd wear a suit, you take your hat off when you walked in, you take your hat off when you had dinner or walked into a church. Nowadays, forget about it. You got these punk kids, even these guys, older guys, they'll wear a hat inside church or whatever, or they'll wear their hats when they have dinner. Oh, madon. I mean,
how's it going?
Anymore. There's no respect.
Hey, how are you doing,
How's
man?
it going, love? Yeah, not bad. Are you?
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, I thought I'd call in and have a chat with you.
Yeah, welcome back.
Welcome.
Oh, what is... You all right,
Hated,
Joe?
Yeah.
hated but rated.
Honestly, it sounds like a porn star name. Honestly,
I might have to edit it, 80, but
Danny
open bracket
still,
18, but red.
still didn't reveal his profession, and he's under no obligation or pressure to do so. But yeah, maybe he is a porn star. You can't know that, Mitch.
I love doing that to people though. Like people will ask me what I do for work occasionally. And the last time that somebody asked me was when I was at the AT&T store. He asked me, he's like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" I looked him dead in the eye. I said, "I make softcore pornos in my garage," and that was it. I said, "All right, I gotta go." And to this day, this guy thinks that I'm making softcore pornos in my garage. I just love screwing with people like that.
In the conversation, did they stop asking questions once you said that?
That was pretty much it. That was the end of the conversation.
Just makes it awkward then, doesn't it?
Probably for him. I just laughed.
I might say in future then I'll make snuff movies on dark web. They'll never talk to me again.
That's even worse, because everyone, I mean, at some level, everyone watches porn. So it's become very mainstream. Even vanilla to a certain extent, right?
It's normal. It's about as normal as an alcoholic nowadays. Like, before COVID, like everyone joked, like, "Oh, you're gonna become an alcoholic," because when everyone was locked down and whatnot. Nowadays, it's like normal. It's like, "Oh, you don't drink now?" When you run into somebody, it's like, "Oh, you don't drink?" It's like, "No." It's like, "So what the fuck did you do during like the last 2 years?"
Over the lockdown, I mean, this phrase, wine mom. That I mean, in suburban culture, it's become completely normal and mainstream to just drink your sorrows away every night, which wasn't really that common in the US anyways. People used to be very embarrassed about admitting that they drink during weekdays. Like they wouldn't
Yeah.
they wouldn't admit, even if they wouldn't admit that they drunk during the week.
Yeah, and it used to be an etiquette where you wouldn't drink past 5 o'clock, right? I mean, even if you did drink during the weekdays, you wouldn't drink before 5, right? Because you're just seen or looked down as a true alcoholic. You know, you're kind of seen as a bum. Nowadays, though, people are popping bottles at, like 11 o'clock, 11:30. More power to you, I guess. But, it is what it is.
Yep. Jay says, Danny, are you a part-time pirate?
I are.
That golden tooth is a complete tax write-off.
Just Saying has a very inappropriate suggestion about Joe's sexual life that I'm not going to read out loud, but it is there.
What time do you do these lives at Lord? What schedule?
I do it right after Archie. Archie's show was supposed to end at 6:30, but it went on for a little while longer and went until like 7:30. So I started right after, especially because Tim wasn't starting right away. And now that Tim started, of course, a lot more people are over on that side, but I don't mind. We are trying to create different kind of content here.
Yeah.
And I try to build up the archive a little bit. So I appreciate all of you being here.
No, when it's all, it's new, in it. You've got to start from somewhere.
Exactly.
So as a general, go on,
sorry, go ahead, Dan.
So the general idea of this pretty much is just straight after Archie.
Yes, I started with
Yes.
talking about the Breguet Marine 5517, their sports watch that is in, and I was looking at the version in white gold. Let me pull up the picture. Pull it up.
Is it something that you're interested in, or?
I feel like you would be interested in a little bit, or even if you hate on it, it would be great content. Yeah, it's kind of, I find it to be, look, every luxury brand at this point has their sports watch, right, with the blue dial, and I find this to be very recognizably Breguet, but also playing in that genre, yet still carving its own space in a way. So this is in white. It has a wave dial. It has a little bit of an exaggerated nautical theme because in addition to the wave dial, it has a crown that looks like a propeller. And the rotor weight in the back also looks like a ship's wheel. And so does the buckle. So does the buckle on the dial. So it's a little excessive when it comes to that, but in person especially, the dial was quite striking to me, very eye-catching, and really does look like you are.
Oh yeah, you can see it better now you've zoomed in. Yeah, I mean the thing is with watches, no company can win, because if they do something that looks like something, someone will say, "Oh, you're just copying this design."
Yeah.
And then if they go out of the box and make something totally different, say like this piece, for example, then they say, "Oh, that's shit. We're not buying that. It's awful. What's that all about?" So no one can win, can they, really?
Right. What do you think,
I
Joe?
say they should just do what Zenith did and just said, fuck it, we're just going to rip off everyone's ideas. First, we'll rip off the Daytona. Second, we'll rip off the Audemars Piguet. Now they're going to probably rip off the Speedmaster. I say, that's a ballsy move. I say, congratulations to Zenith for just going out there and doing it.
Or like Breitling that basically makes
Patek.
yeah, Patek chronographs at like a fraction of the price.
I can't believe they got away with that shit. Like, I can't believe that there wasn't like a small like lawsuit placed on them. Because did Patek come first, or did Breitling come first with those releases? I think Patek did, didn't they?
Patek,
Patek.
they're years old, aren't they?
No. Like with their latest dress watches. I think Patek came out with the kind of like their latest dress watches, and then Breitling followed it up like 2 months afterwards.
Are we talking about the chronographs or?
Yeah, we're talking about the one that looks like a lime green. That one was probably like the most like a Patek Philippe from Breitling.
I've seen that one.
Look, this is the one I'm talking about, for example.
But then if you go back to 50s and 60s, when you look at a dress watch, everything were the same, just a different dial. I mean, IWC, Patek Philippe, Vacheron, all these sort of brands, everything looked the same. JLC, just had something different on dial.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Patek wasn't, of course, the inventor of doing a chronograph with a Salmon dial. On this channel earlier, I showed a few examples of Rolex with a pink salmon pink dial against or encased in a rose gold case. So it's not like Patek has any claim over that particular. But
no, I'm just saying, like in the 50s and 60s, the standard three-handed dress watch, JLC, Patek, IWC, everything were pretty much Calatrava or whichever made it, but just a dial with something different saying on it. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah. So the design language was the same or simply similar. So this is
everything. Yeah.
This is the two sub-dial Patek chronograph with syringe hands, right? 5172.
Yeah.
And so this is how it looks. And then Breitling has a model called Heritage Duograph. That's basically the same.
It's actually quite nice. Is that acrylic crystal? It looks like acrylic on the picture.
It kind of has that feel. I doubt it, but we can look at all the specs.
If you look at edges, I'm going to say, if you look at edges, it looks like it's acrylic crystal, doesn't it?
Kind of. Let's see. This is their own presentation. Yeah, it has that kind of feel to it.
Just how rounded the edges are on the crystal and the shine it's got on the edges.
That's also a nice nice strap that they're presenting it on, by the way.
I'd wear that.
I know you also like chronographs much more than I do, I think. That's the other thing. Let's see what it says about case material, bezel crystal. No, it says cambered sapphire, glare proofed on both sides. Power reserve approximately 70 hours. It's a screwed in sapphire crystal case back. The story paying homage to 3 generations of inventors, Léon, Gaston, and Willy Breitling. The premier duograph displays Breitling's watchmaking expertise with its split-second complication. As Willy Breitling said, the premier is an unmistakable stamp of impeccable taste. This latest generation of premier chronographs brings its timeless elegance back to life and showcases Breitling's highest level of watchmaking thanks to a range of iconic premier complications: the chronograph, the duograph, and the datura. Featuring rectangular chronograph pushers, bicompax chronograph look, and Arabic numerals, the heritage-revived premier chronographs display a variety of elegant design details such as grooves on case sides, open sapphire case backs, vintage-inspired hands. So everything that we were talking about, that vintage chronograph design language, comes through in this advertisement copy. The duograph comes in two variations, in stainless steel with a blue dial and a gold-brown alligator strap, or 18-karat red gold with a black dial and a black alligator strap. Duograph was a term used by Breitling in the 1940s, refers to a chronograph rattrapante. A rattrapante, from French rattraper, to catch up, is one of the most elaborate of all watch complications. In terms of manufacturing difficulty, it's on par with the tourbillon and minute repeater. Its function is to measure two elapsed times at once, intermediate and split time, which it shows via two hands on the central chronograph. The duograph is powered by the manually wound, COSC-certified Breitling manufacturer caliber B15, featuring two patent innovations, one to simplify the mechanism, the other to improve accuracy. This is what they mean by that rattrapante. Why doesn't it? The two hands there.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen this Breitling here. What you're showing me now.
And they also have the Salmon dial version. Let me show you that maybe.
Yeah, these are the ones I was talking about. Didn't these just release like 2-3 years ago? If that.
Yeah, this series of chronographs is relatively new. I can't tell you exactly when because I'm not that.
This is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, they're fairly new.
I don't know if I'm keen on that. Wait, that salmon dial.
This is like a triple calendar with a two register. Chrono. Syringe hands.
This looks exactly like a Patek. Like you could fake out people, pretend that you're rich and try and flex it, and then when the ladies find out that you're a fraud, it's game over. But hey,
I mean, this is still I think at least a $10,000 watch. So you need to have some money to be able to get it.
I think it looks like they've tried too hard on that one with salmon dial. I think they've tried to push it too much.
In fact, look at this.
It's overpriced. That's not secondary. I'd buy it pre-owned. I don't know. I mean, salmon dials are, you either like them or you hate them. There's never like, you warm up to it type thing.
Yeah.
The salmon dial just never really caught on, unfortunately. I personally like them, but I get, they're an acquired taste. There we go.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's still, you have to pay 10K for it, for sure. I'm looking at Chrono 24 now. This is in Germany, original box, original papers. It's still 97, and it's all stock images too, so you can't quite know whether they actually have the watch or not.
It just looks to me on that version, that variation, it looks like they're trying too hard. Not to be like Patek, I mean, just look like they're trying too hard. Do you know, it's like they've tried to make it look too vintagey by putting that salmon dial in it, whereas the original watch back in 40s, 30s, whatever, the dial would have probably started out white, and it's got that patina over time, which has made it look a salmon colour.
Lloyd, show him the green one.
Oh, I will. I just want to show the Patek version 5270 right before we move on.
Oh yeah, it's exactly the same.
Patek, of course, has the perpetual calendar rather than triple calendar. So it needs, and it has the leaf hand.
I think that looks neater.
Why? Because it says Patek Philippe.
No. I think it said fucking Oris on it. What I'm saying is, I think the dial looks neater.
It does. And look,
It's,
it's also $250,000.
I wonder if I can put it on layaway.
My God, it is a beautiful watch. I have to admit
I
that.
think the dial looks cleaner on that. Obviously, it says Patek on it, but take away the fact it says Patek, it looks less blocky and less like crammed in, less busy. Even though it is a busy watch.
It is, of course,
Just-
but you do have like two sub registers for the chronograph, a perpetual calendar. So you need to cram something in there.
Just think it looks more sleek, that one, the dial. I think the Breitling one looks more blocky, like a new tattoo and a no tattoo. One's leaked out and one hasn't.
Oh, this is also smaller, Joe. I think it's it is probably an interesting option for anyone who likes.
Shit, it's a 40 mil. Yeah, I just seen that. Yeah, but it's a Breitling. I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing to be seen wearing Breitling nowadays.
I wouldn't be so harsh, but yeah, it's not my favorite brand.
I'd say that's better than the salmon one.
I think so. Again, I don't like this color, but I think the fact that it's a smaller size, that it's a less busy dial, just a 2-register chronograph, the syringe heads, just the steel look against the pistachio or maybe light lime green. It's not a bad look at all.
I actually like it. I mean, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of sherbet ice cream for some reason. But it's different. It's like I said. I always said like olive green dials are underrated, but that dial color in particular is very unusual. It's different. It's sure to grab attention.
I wanted to pull up the watch that Jay is asking for with the monopusher. That's it.
And you see, with the other two Breitlings, the other Breitling brought up and said to do it in rose gold as well.
Who knows? Maybe I can run this Breitling.
They did have
I think
a program like that, right? You said?
Yeah, no, it's still active. Yeah, their rental program is still active.
It's fascinating. But yeah, I mean that's the fascinating thing that I don't know, it wasn't like this 5-7 years ago. People didn't really obsess about dial colors so much. Nowadays, we had the hype with the blue dial sports watches, and then for a little while burgundy was all the rage, and then green, and now with the oyster perpetuals, all these quirky stella color variations. It's getting a little out of control, no?
yeah.
To be fair though, you got collectors more like me. I mean, obviously, Lord, you and I are very different. You care, I would say, or rather make the bold assumption, you care more about the movements, things of that nature, because that's more important to you. As me, I care more about the design and the aesthetics. So two different lanes for collectors.
I'm with you actually. I care more about the aesthetics than the movements properly, I have to admit. I'm not really a high horology guy, honestly. But I do I do care about like utilitarian and functional complications or functional improvements on the watch. Like the reason I love the Grand Date, for example, is, yeah, it shows it on its dial, but the power reserve is 8 days. Like that's a huge achievement to do on a
Look
dial.
at that case back. Look at that. Oh, you just look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful watch. This is the Monopusher Platinum perpetual calendar chronograph.
Yeah, I think I'm just not a salmon dial person.
Me neither. But you know, as an object, I find a lot to admire in this.
Oh yeah, you can't take away what it is. You definitely can't take that away from it. But I've just made my mind up now. What Meech was just saying is, you either are a salmon dial person or you're not, and I've figured it out. I'm not.
Right. And I'm a salmon dial person, but the problem is salmon dial doesn't like me. You got to be the right person to pull off salmon dials. With all due respect, you have to be, in my opinion, a bit of a lighter skinned person to be able to pull off salmon dials properly. In the same way that rose gold kind of fits better with darker skin tones. But yeah, it's one of those things. So it makes it unique.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
What I was saying earlier, before we get lost in this one for a second. Sorry. Before we get lost in this one, so I care about complications and movements when they improve something very specific about the watch, whether it's performance related or it improves the power reserve, it makes it more accurate. The way that Reverso Grand Date has an 8-day power reserve with an actual high beat movement that's still 28,800 hertz. I think that's 28,800 beats per minute. I think that's still an impressive achievement, and you can look at that dual spring, dual barrel spring on the back, and it just, I don't know, I get impressed by something like that more than a perpetual calendar, as much as I appreciate the workmanship that goes into that.
Right.
So basically, it fascinates you. The stuff that fascinates you more, how it works, how it can have a power reserve for 8 days in something so small, and
right,
how clever it is.
And because it also, it adds to my use to that watch, right? I wind it once, and then I don't have to think about it until next week.
It's clever, isn't it? It's like amazing how you can get something to do that in something so small that doesn't take no battery to power it, and too clever, isn't it?
And I do care also, since Reverso is an unusual shape, right? I do care about the fact that it has a movement that's designed for that case and that's shaped after that case, and it fits. Because one thing that really irritates me, especially when it's a display case back, is when you see all these tricks to make a smaller movement look like it belongs to that watch, even though they use it for 3-4 different models in their lineup.
I get that.
Jay's great. Lord Monobrow needs a monopusher. Well, honestly, it would teach me something, because again, as much as I appreciate these complications from the perspective of watchmaking, I never see myself owning them. If I had one, perhaps like for a week or two, I may actually learn how to enjoy them, and maybe I'll be bitten by that bug, perhaps, but who knows? For now, I'm really not interested in it.
Lord, have you ever seen the Jackie Droz bird repeater?
What is that?
Jackie Droz. I might be saying it wrong. Jackie Droz.
Oh,
bird repeater.
When
else.
When did you see that?
I've seen it years ago, but I'm just saying, have you seen it before?
No, I have not.
That
But
is amazing. You'll be yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. That you'll be fascinated by that.
the bird repeater, right?
The bird repeater. If you can go on YouTube and find like the official video of it and put it on the screen.
Alex, we are gonna pull up your Patek in a minute if you don't get bored with us, because Alex has a 5396R rose gold with blue dial that I had just pulled up. But let's take a look at this, the bird repeater.
Fucking brilliant! This. I don't know if you can see a video of it.
The video says
that-
page pound, so maybe on YouTube we can pull it up. And
I've seen there's a video of it on YouTube.
there must be. Bird
Watch
repeater.
that fascinates me more than any of them.
I feel bad because I think of the wizard. Bird brain.
I was holding myself back not to say anything like that. Again, this is not a coded message towards another channel at all. We are just interested in the minute repeater. This is beautiful.
When you see how it works, mate, you'll be amazed.
Oh wait, it's also
You were chiming.
Oh, look at that.
Showing you chime there.
Imagine we are impressed by hearing it from a YouTube video. Imagine being in the presence of it and feeling it vibrate and chime in the same spaces.
Yeah.
Must be an experience. It's yeah, again, with all due respect, especially when he's feeding the bird from his mouth, it's hard not to think about our old friend.
Fuck's sake. Didn't even click on.
Oh, shit.
The dial is
I mean,
amazing, with the enamel painted birds and everything. It's like visually, it's amazing. It's just a whole work of art. It's hard not to appreciate it.
Yeah, because them birds that are enamelled after, it's 18 karat gold underneath it and then enamelled over it, and then birds feeding the birds.
Right.
It's just, I can't.
I just got this like morbid image, like there's one of the birds that's like Marcel's head just poking out of the egg. Oh shit!
Yeah, let's pull up Alex's watch for a second. 5396R. This is from it's a complicated Patek. It's in rose gold and has a gorgeous blue dial. Look at that. Annual calendar with moon phase.
That is lovely.
Yeah, annual calendar, as you guys know, is Patek complication, right? Unlike the triple dates or triple calendars, you
Yeah.
only have to arrange this one once a year, and in this month in particular. So Alex has a job to do at the end of February. But beyond that, you're set for the rest of the year. It knows the difference between longer months and shorter months, and that in itself, I think it's a very remarkable achievement in terms of a watch company.
It's mind blowing, isn't it? That's run mechanically. No computers telling it how to do that. It's running mechanically, and it knows you only have to change it one day a year.
It's amazing, and I want to ask Alex, does your come with the applied hour markers or with the baguette diamonds? Alex, if you could write us about that as well. Alex's watch is beautiful, man. Wear it in.
Baguette.
It is.
No, it's not. I'm just saying baguette isn't like the piece of bread.
You meant it in the ha sense.
Yeah. Baguette.
French resistance.
I wonder what happened to our elderly friend who had just a personal beef against people from France.
Right? He thought that we were from France, either Marcelo or me. But I mean, in either case, I got pretty offended by that. Not that I have a particular case against the French, but they would never.
Oh,
they would never think that I'm French. So
you said baguette diamonds.
yeah, they are.
I thought you were Colombian, didn't I? Say hello to my little friend.
Hey, man, I think, Danny, I might be figuring out a few things about your path of work here, your line of work. Do you deal with a lot of Colombians in your life?
I work in McDonald's cleaner.
Okay. I'll go with that story, Danny.
Yeah. Look at that, though. Look, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, even just the different kinds of
Beautiful.
engine turn decorations, the Côte de Genève on the bridges, the rotor itself is wonderful. The guilloché. And I'm not even sure. Does it have a sapphire case back? Does it have an exhibition case back, Alex? I think the way they are presenting it here makes me think like it doesn't, but it loads very, very slowly.
No refunds.
No comment. But it loads very, very slowly, this thing. So until we start turning it around, I think Alex will have an answer for us. Yeah, let us know, Alex, if this is an exhibition case back or not, because I think I would want to see this movement, look at it once every so often if I'm carrying it on my wrist, but it doesn't look like a sapphire case back from the profile here, right? It looks like a closed case back. Oh, it does. It has an exhibition case back. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, man. One and done. You know, if you can afford it, get something like this. Why need another watch? Again, I know why I would need another watch, but this is just a beautiful piece. as Archie would say, it's the watch you would want to wear when you're meeting Jesus, when you're fighting a case for embezzlement, when you're visiting a brothel, when you're attending a funeral, when you are hiring or firing employees. Oh man, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. Wear it in good health, my friend, and may you see even better days with it.
It is lovely, that.
Yeah, let's take another look at that movement, and maybe I'll be. Oh, was that ready for us to turn it around?
What?
Or did I just ruin it?
Have you got dial-up connection?
Yeah, something like that.
Where you can't answer the phone if you're on internet.
Okay, you see now I can. Oh my God, that's some
Look at
good
that.
movement, man. Look at the presentation on their website. I mean, this is a brand that knows how to do things, huh?
It truly is the definition of luxury. I mean,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Perfect, Alex. Great. Yeah, so that you can be quote unquote part of the hype with a beautiful blue dial watch, but no one will mistake you for any other hype watch wearing beast. This is a different um, watch. You can't mistake it for anything else. And Alex says, no chance I'm wearing this in a brothel. You're missing on half the fun, man. And GB Vol says, retail price. The retail price is actually, honestly, the way I drolled over all those images, 61,510. That doesn't sound so bad for a watch like this.
I was about to say, it sounds like as insane and psychopathic as it sounds. Yeah, that's actually pretty reasonable.
Again, the way those real hype sports watches in the luxury category have jumped up, I would rather get something like this than a Nautilus for sure.
This is what I say. I'd rather have something like this and change.
Yeah. Or like again, something like a 5172, which our friend Bondage and Discipline has, that chronograph with blue dial and syringe hands, the two sub-register chronograph that we looked through before. I'd rather have something like that than a hype beast luxury sports watch with a blue dial. Right, this one I was talking about. Yeah, to me this is just a lot more interesting in every way possible.
Yeah. It's like you say. It's exactly like you say. You pay, I love. Don't get me wrong. I love Rolex, but like for a standard steel Daytona, and you're paying what 30 grand upwards now on grey market. You just rather you just rather put extra and buy something like this, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And
I
you're talking about pound sterling, of course, Danny, right?
Sorry, yeah, forget, yeah.
I mean, this of course, probably this is more like 70K. This is a little more expensive. No, 80 actually. But anyway, like Alex's watch, I think was just as beautiful as this, and some would say that's even nicer because it has an annual calendar complication. It has the baguette diamonds on the dial. Yeah, that was 62K basically. I'd rather have something like that than a Patek Nautilus for sure.
100%. You'd have that, and you'd have change as well.
Say that again.
I said you'd get this, and you'd have change as well. You'd still have money left if you were gonna spend money on the Nautilus, wouldn't you?
I think
The
so.
Nautilus.
How are they trending these days? How much
To the
are they
moon.
selling?
About
To the moon.
Oh, it's crazy.
about 200 grand or something in UK
Okay.
on grey
Buy them
market.
now. Buy them
Oh my
now. They're perfect investments. Buy them now. Don't even worry about dodgy coin. Don't worry about Tesla. Buy Patek Philippe and ride the wave.
Insane. It's almost $250,000 now. Now
Yeah, it's around there, yeah.
Now I understand why I don't see these things in the wild anymore. Yeah, I mean, Jay, look, he says, any reservations on wearing Patek or crosses? Yeah, man. I mean, look, I wasn't trying to be funny when I was talking about Christian saints. To me, as a spiritual person and as a believer in one God, Christianity is an incredible resource. I draw a lot of inspiration from it, but I'm not a Christian myself, so I don't like wearing crosses on me. The brand logos I don't mind, right, when it comes to Patek and Vacheron Constantin, but Vacheron Constantin overseas that has an entire steel bracelet, made up of cross links, I just can't. I'm being honest, I don't mean to offend anyone's feelings. I'm not against, any religious belief, organized or unorganized religion, or lack of belief for that matter. But I don't feel comfortable. That's why I never was interested in overseas third generation, especially as hyped up as they were. The boutique was giving me 5% discount on it when I actually went in and tried on and said, okay, what can we do here? And I just couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger.
I get what you're saying there. You're not dissing no religion, but it's not your religion, so like you won't wear a Muslim costume if you're not a Muslim, or I'm just trying to think of a better example on that's a rubbish one.
No, I mean you can kind of see that, right? Because sometimes
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. I mean, if you're a white guy from Yorkshire, for example, and you go to Pakistan for a job, and you need to live there for a couple of years, and you have any number of options, right? You can wear something that looks more conservative and more average and more traditional in that context, that may help you blend in a certain way. And I wouldn't hold it against you. You might just dress like you dress in Yorkshire because that's how you feel natural. That's how it comes naturally to you. And I think I respect that because that's you. Why would you want to change yourself and wear something that's
not you?
Yeah, that you can't substantiate.
You've just explained what I meant better than I did.
No, I agree. I think Jay had a slight misunderstanding because he keeps saying that it's not the Iron Cross, it's the Maltese Cross. I know I'm not saying because I'm Jewish and because I think it's like Nazi or neo-Nazi. Absolutely not. It's more because I'm Jewish and I'm not a Christian. That's my difference. Otherwise,
I get exactly what you're saying. That's what I would try to explain that, but I'm not always the best at explaining stuff.
No, I think you got it across really clearly. I just wanted to clarify it a little further because, again, I don't want to seem like I'm blaming these brands for having some sort of subliminal message in a willy-nilly way. I didn't imply that at all. But listen, I mean, some people are more open-minded and relaxed about these things than I am. I've seen people who come from Jewish families because they want to hang out with other kids who listen to rap and hip hop, and they're wearing crosses on their necks because that's how those kids do. And it's fine. I don't. That doesn't rub me off the wrong way. I understand what they're trying to do, but it's not something that I would do. Yeah, Jay says the same thing. Actually, I'm Jewish also. For me, it's a little too, in your face as a design element. The Maltese.
Shalom.
Yeah. Shalom Aleichem. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, I like saying that. It's kind of like the Muslim Alhamdulillah. Like
Alhamdulillah, pray to God.
Yeah, always got, you're thankful for your situation, whatever it is, because God has willed it a certain way. So I like that.
There's a UK show, and it's called Friday Night Dinner, and it's this family of Jewish people, and every Friday night the two sons go around for dinner, for a Friday night dinner. Yeah. And there's a guy who's just like English. I mean, they're English Jewish, and this bloke comes round and it's a bit like he's not all there, but he tries to be respectful to the to the culture. And when he goes to the door, he knocks on the door, and the kids wind him up saying, "Oh, in the Jewish culture we do this," and just winding him up. And he said, "Oh, really? Do you?" So next time he comes, they've told him that they wear the hat that Jewish wear. So he didn't. Yeah, he doesn't have one. So he comes to the door, knocks on the door, and he goes, "Shalom." And what he's done, he's got this hat on, and then, okay, yeah, see you later. And he turns around, and at the back of his shirt, he's cut a circle out to make the hat because he's not all there. If you've seen it, you'd laugh. You'd laugh. It's not taking the mick out of any religion. He's just trying to be like friends with them, and he's interested sort of in the religion, to try and be a part of it. He doesn't really know. And the kids that are telling him, they're telling him to wind him up on that.
One of the things that I always like. I'm a Spurs fan, maybe too predictable. But when I was reading up on the history, I learned that a lot of the observant Jews at that time, just to be able to get in get to the game, right, on Saturday, even though it's still not legal, right, because you are not supposed to ride the bus either. But just to get around the rules, some of the younger kids would buy their bus ticket early on Friday, so they don't transact on the Shabbat. And then ride the bus to the game, to White Hart Lane on Saturday. So I find that, also like that sort of trying to find your way and navigate through the different rules. It's also something, Jewish people themselves do a lot as well, right? You kind of, before lights go down, for example, on a Friday, you leave the light in the bathroom on, right? So you don't have to struggle in the dark when you actually have to take care of business on the Shabbat, right? Or you just turn on the oven, at a certain temperature before sun goes down, so you can actually, leave some food in there and still have it warm for dinner. So it's, those sorts of little people use for their own religious practice as well.
Just bend the rules a little.
Yeah, but you have to because
Well, I can imagine. So it's hard, isn't it?
that's the thing. Only at the end of the day, only God is perfect, right? Human beings find their way to live in the world somehow. You have to adapt.
I mean, the thing about religion is when it were wrote these many years ago, these temptations there, they didn't have TVs and stuff, did they? So
yeah, I mean, obviously, that's the primary reason for these sorts of bans. Of course, you are supposed to take a rest, right? That's the primary reason. Even God took a day off, right?
yeah,
But ultimately, it's supposed to be a day where you dial things down, retreat to your quarters, retreat to your household, and study and remember God and read. So that's the idea. Alex says, "You're a Spurs fan, Lord. You poor thing." I can't say much. I'm a United fan. It's painful at the moment. Well, I mean, you guys had your glory. You owned the entire franchise of Premier League for so long. So it's slow down a little bit. Leave something for the rest of us. Danny, what team do you support? Leeds or United?
Bradford City, me, pal.
Oh, Bradford, right? I have asked you this
Bradford
question.
City. Yeah, it's. But really, no, it's only League Two. But I've not been for ages now. A lot of my friends are locked up, so.
Oh no!
Going.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it's their own fault, and it's if you're going to do something, and you've got to take the consequences, haven't you? Got to face the consequences.
Yeah. Still, it's it's not. Yeah, it's always.
It's not ideal, is it?
Someone is locked up. I understand your logic and respect it completely, but still, at the end of the day, even when you think it's just that someone is locked up, that someone is imprisoned, you never want to see a human being robbed of his freedom.
Yeah,
so it's still a sad thing to hear.
it's just the saying goes, live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, that's true.
I know what you're saying as well.
Yeah, I think I may have lost some followers here. Chunkster says, a sports fan, I'm out.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Lord.
Yeah.
With you being a vegan, how do you get on with watch straps and boxes and shoes?
I'm horrible, man. I'm horrible. I've been keeping a vegan diet for more than 3 years now, because it was 3 years ago in mid-February that I started.
Yeah.
And there was a long stretch of time that I didn't buy anything new in leather. And then it kind of crept back, because watch straps I would never buy used anyways. But I did get, at some point, I did get some belts, from a thrift store, and kind of justified it to myself, saying like, this is nothing new, it's just I thrifted it, I'm not really. But at the end of the day, all that is bullshit, because ultimately, if you are really a committed vegan, what you're doing is perpetuating the fact that you can wear another living being's skin, right? To put it in the most
Right,
plain. So I decided not to fool myself. If I'm still wearing leather, if I haven't completely diverted myself from it, I do buy now new straps once every so often. I do get new shoes once every so often. I try to cut it down, but I haven't completely stopped it. I should, in an ideal world.
Yeah, but you're saying I should. That's so hard.
Hmm?
Do you know? I know with you eating that'd be really hard for me to eat vegan. But when you're not, but then when you do that, that's one level. Most things have animal fats in it, don't they? And that's the problem. Even
That's
synthetic.
in your case, well, in my case, I should say, I actually found it really easy to adjust my diet, because I have already been vegetarian for so long, and I've also been raised by a mother who didn't really like meat herself, and who never ate much meat, and who never cooked much with meat. So even when I was an omnivore or carnivore or whatever you want to call it, I used to eat meat like, once or twice a week at most. So for me, to get rid of meat was nothing. To get rid of dairy and cheese, that wasn't much either. But ultimately, I feel like, I'm very vain. I like wearing certain nice things. And a lot of times those nice things are very much connected to animal products. Even when it's byproducts, again, I find it, like Jay said, I find it like a circular logic. Oh, this is just a byproduct of industrial meat. It will happen anyways, so why not? Why shouldn't I have a calfskin belt or watch strap or this? But ultimately, of course, I said, rather than tricking myself, let me be honest with myself. I'm vain. I like leather products. I have some older stuff. Once every so often, I might add something new, whether it's a watch strap or a new wallet, or a cigar case, two things that I recently. And I might feel guilty about it. I might have a guilty conscience about it, but it's for me to deal with it. And maybe at some point I will be able to give up on those as well. Who knows?
We're fucking living in woods with fucking leaves for underpants. You'll never be at a fucking Tarzan. It's impossible.
This is another moment, Danny, where I'm reminded of our common friend who doesn't even wear a leaf as his underpants.
I think to be a full-on vegan, I think it'd be pretty impossible. I couldn't understand where you've come from with the food scenario. I can understand that because you were brought up on like fruits and veggies and stuff. So for you, it wasn't too hard to change that, would it? Because
It was
you were
not.
used to that anyway.
But in a way, again, just like honestly, just like the diet and how people have devised more and more substitutes for meat and for all these dairy products that are fully vegan, and in some cases just as processed and just as unhealthy, but that's another discussion altogether. At least we live in a time, if I were to make that commitment, you can find decent vegan shoes. You can find, I mean, they're not going to look like leather. They're not going to age like leather. They're not going to wear like leather. So you have to make a compromise for sure. You can find more sustainable clothing. If that's really the lifestyle you want to lead, you don't have to be reduced to living in a rural environment, in a commune, among other nudists or something.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that as an example because that's like the easiest example I can give, like clothes or watch straps. But it goes deeper than that. Again, done it. Then there's products that you use, like certain shampoos, soaps made with animal fat. So I don't know. I couldn't do it.
I'm more careful with that. And again, that's become, if you're in a metropolitan center in the US, that's become very easy. For me, it's very easy to find shampoo and soap and cologne and whatever else that's not tested on animals. So again, I try my best, but we were talking about religion earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's a little similar to that. So I have a certain belief, I have a certain ideal, I have an aspiration towards that ideal, but I'm also imperfect.
And who is perfect? There's no one in the world perfect.
Yeah, and I also have all sorts of vain desires. So I like certain expensive and luxurious things, and a lot of times animal sacrifice is involved in that. So
Lord, I'm kind of curious.
Yes.
How do you view people who do it for clout? Like I know more than a handful of girls that are quote unquote vegan, and they're just doing it for the Instagram follows, the TikToks, the endorsement deals. But the reality is they could give two flying fucks. Like how do you view the posers?
I don't know. I think I don't view it any differently than any other inauthenticity that I see in people. Hypocrisy, inauthenticity, just disingenuousness. I can't tolerate it. I can't stand it. I'm not here for it. So I don't feel particularly offended by people who do that. But there are a lot of people who pretend to be something they're not on social media. So if the character they're taking is being vegan, I'm not offended more by that than people who claim to fight for certain causes and be ally for this, ally for that, where they actually lead lives that are very sheltered, that don't include different kinds of people in their immediate circles, whereas on social media they're fighting for racial justice and whatever else, right?
Right,
so
and
by
I respect the people who actually put in the effort. Like they'll actually, they'll get to the point where they're actually annoying. To be honest, like the running joke is you always can tell a vegan. You can always figure out who's a vegan because they'll tell you right off the bat.
Every 2 minutes. You're the first vegan I've met that I haven't done that.
Yeah, I respect them, but I always get a chuckle, and not to pick at you, Lord, but especially with the girls, like, oh, I'm vegan, and you said, well, isn't that like a $300 or like a $300 Gucci belt and a $2,000 Louis Vuitton bag? Oh no, it's different though. It's different. I was like, how is it different?
Honestly, it's not different, but the reason I actually don't bring it up except for social contexts. You kind of have to. It's not the first thing that I advertise about myself, but if I'm gonna take a woman to a restaurant, I have to tell her at some point, right? And I have to, I have to somehow explain what brought me there and what things I do and what I don't. So it does come up. In my case, it really doesn't define me, right? I'm not proud of it. I'm not ashamed by it, and I don't I certainly don't impose it on other people.
Yeah,
I know
first
one of my
vegan I've
mates.
heard.
He went vegan to date and go out with this girl and to get her into bed. He was vegan for almost 6 months, and finally he just gave up. He said it wasn't worth it. He said screw it. He said I broke off the relationship, and started just going ham on meat.
Honestly, you know, I've done otherwise, not in an inauthentic way, but I was, for example, in a relationship where we lived together, and I was already vegetarian then, but I cooked for this woman on a number of occasions. In fact, I was doing most of the cooking, and I cooked meat too. I didn't like it, but she was gonna eat that anyways. So better my meat than someone else's. So
There you go.
I've got two trick questions for you. I've got two trick questions for you, Lord.
yes, Danny.
First one's a bit vulgar.
That's I can take it.
Vegan girls give oral because they can't eat meat.
in the same way I can eat pussy, they can eat meat.
Go on, my lad. All right. This is more of a trick question. Would you drink Cope Luwak coffee?
No, actually. You have probably heard this. I'm pretty crazy for my coffee. And I'm not very picky, but I've tried all sorts of coffee and all different methods. And I know the Indonesian Kopi Luwak is a very special and very expensive blend. No, blend. I shouldn't say blend. Coffee bean. I would never try it. Do you know these coffee beans, Joe? Kopi Luwak? The Indonesian?
Fresh.
I'm not familiar with them, no. But then again, I don't drink coffee in general.
Danny, can you explain it? Because it's you would be interested in hearing the story, Joe.
Right, what it is the civet cat eats these beans because it's too rich, then shits it out, and then you pick the beans out. Well, you don't personally, but they pick the beans out of the shit and then process them to drink the coffee.
And it's like very expensive. Let me see how much it costs again per pound.
I want to try it. I want to try Kopi Luwak. I've never tried it.
It's basically
Is
like
it?
$200
Yeah, and it's like really expensive coffee. Like it's like
per pound.
a luxury coffee, even though it's essentially just a pile of shit from monkeys. So I mean, to each their own, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've tried, for example, Jamaican Blue Mountain, which is not as expensive, but quite an expensive kind of coffee. Maybe more like the $75-$80 per pound range than 200. But yeah, I don't think I can ever try this one, Danny. I mean, I'm not saying that, yeah, I mean, maybe you have to try everything once. There are a lot of things that I wouldn't want to try. I guess this is one of them.
I would just try to trick you because being vegan, would that be classed?
No, but I remember one day I was in a mezcaleria here in Los Angeles, right, where they specialize in all these different kind of mezcals and tequilas, and we were sampling a few different things, and the guy was really proud about it. So when he was bringing the next round, he was really excited, and he said, like, this one you really have to drink it a certain way. I'll show you. And he comes with the next round of mezcal and basically a little bowl of bugs, insects.
Yeah.
And
What do you the bugs in and eat them, or what's the crack with that?
For me, the excuse was easy. I didn't even have to learn much about it. I said, I'm vegan. I can't eat that. So I can't eat insects, obviously. So, but let me see if I can find a picture or video of this online, so we can see how these are accompanied by, how these drinks are accompanied by insects.
J617 said there, stick to Blue Mountain, Jamaica or Corner. Now,
Yeah.
I thought Blue Mountain was so overrated. I was looking forward to having it and trying it, and I just thought, well, that was a bit shit, to be honest. I found it very weak.
Okay, worms. Sorry, it comes with worms. I don't know why I said
Worms. I know they put worms in tequilas, don't they?
yeah. So let's see if I can find the part where they. This is a mezcal called Monte Alban. It's a very long video, so I'm trying to find if they have. I can't really see it. But anyway, so apparently there's something about mezcal and eating worms with it. A mezcal worm, it says, is an insect larva found in some types of mezcal produced in Oaxaca, Mexico. The larva is usually either a gusano rojo, a red worm, or a chicuil, a maguey worm, the caterpillar of Comadia retambakeri moth. The red worm is typically considered tastier. Okay, now don't run away. I'm actually gonna show a picture of some of these mezcal worms.
It's atrocious. It's fucking atrocious.
Nasty, vicious, foul-mouthed, vinyl. Yeah.
So what's the logic in that? What, chew the worm and eat the coffee, or do you drop the worm in the coffee, or what?
No,
It's
the mezcal. I think they're found in the drink actually, but I think some bars, at least here in Los Angeles, also serve you on the side, since they're supposed to go with it. I think it's because, I guess it's a byproduct of the way they make mezcal, because
right.
Mezcal is made from maguey, which is it's basically from agave, from the same fruit as the thing they draw syrup from, right?
Yeah.
So
There's some fucked up shit in the world, isn't there?
no, I mean, so probably it's these are worms that are naturally found in the agave and somehow are preserved in the process. The same way any scotch or any barrel aged alcoholic drink would have some sort of cask extract in it.
Right, yeah, I get you.
Especially if it's not filtered extensively, like you can even see it in the cloudiness of the drink, you know what I mean? So probably something similar.
So it's more of a natural than an extract.
I think so. I guess. I would have to read more about the process. Maybe maybe in the next live stream I will
So,
have more pardon detail to say about it. But
have
so
you
far
heard of
that's
that maggot cheese? Have you heard of that cheese with maggots in?
I did.
Oh,
Once again, I wasn't really intrigued, even when I was as a vegetarian. It wasn't for me.
no, I've never tried it. I've just heard about it. I don't think I could think about worse.
It's amazing what some people just eat, just in general. I mean, you got the Chinese eating bat soup, and live octopuses. You got the Indian people eating what I would kind of deem a exploded diaper heated up in a microwave. They call it curry. You
Is it
got the
korma?
Americans eating these, like these burgers that are just absolute trash. They taste like plastic. I mean, it's amazing what people eat.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what people eat under the name of pizza in the Midwest, Joe. But I'm not. I'm not making these sorts of discriminatory comments against them.
It's got to have pineapple on it. Otherwise, it's not pizza. I'll fucking die on that hill.
Pineapple. This is the pizza you eat, Joe. Shame
See,
on
Yeah.
I'd rather eat maggot cheese and pineapple on a pizza. In fact, I'd rather eat my own steak than fucking pineapple on a pizza. I can't.
Yeah, to me, honestly, pizza is really about minimalism. I have a similar taste that I have in watches. You know, it has to be thin crust. It has to be
Margarine.
good fresh ingredients, but not too much.
Yeah.
Just a little
Like
cheese.
a margarita or a garlic margarita or something.
Yeah, that's more than fine. If the ingredients are good and fresh, and if the
Yeah.
crust sees the oven in the right way for the right time, nothing else you need. Hard to find good vegan pizza because the texture of the cheese, the vegan cheese, is never quite right. But
Can
it is.
imagine.
So then,
Jason-
Lord, would you have like beef with the deep dish, Chicago style then?
I mean, look, if I lost a bet or something, I guess that could be my punishment. You know, that I have
Just
to
eat this giant
pizza.
slice of lasagna.
Yeah, deep dish pizza with with aged beef on it or something.
No, I hear a lot of stories. Like, I mean, I hear like eating deep dish Chicago style is like trying to like eat a giant loaf of bread dipped in tomato sauce. That's what I've heard.
Deep dish to me is somewhere between quiche and focaccia. Like, it doesn't feel like pizza to me.
Don't vegan pizza just taste horrible? I'm just thinking about it now.
Well, you would have
like-
what would you have on a
like the
vegan pizza?
dough.
You would have leaves, you would
Pizza
have
legs.
grass, you would have synthetic plastic cheese. I wouldn't even be cheese. It would be what is it? What is the alternative fake cheese? You wouldn't even have like real sauce. It would be like I don't know. It'd just be like ketchup, maybe. Yeah, it'd probably just be ketchup. The bread wouldn't even be bread. It'd probably just be like this weird doughy Play-Doh stuff that you would get. God, it sounds atrocious.
Rubber. To me, I don't like eating substitutes. You know, that's my main problem. So if I have a vegan diet, I would rather eat lentils. I would rather eat zucchini. I would rather eat beans and legumes, just vegetables. That's what I like. You know, I don't really like going out for pizza or like a fake chicken sandwich or hamburger, but I'm not above it either. Once in a month I will have something like that. Maybe I'll have pizza, and they have everything on it. They have vegan cheese, they have vegan sausage, vegan chorizo, vegan this, vegan that. They have everything at this point, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel the same way to me. I don't crave those things in the same way. But once every
How do
so
you feel
often,
about the Impossible meat? That used to be a huge craze, like when Burger King released the Impossible Whopper. Every girl was on TikTok saying, "I'm saving the environment, save the animals," and then like it was hyped up for like 4 to 5 months, and then it's like you don't hear about it anymore. But you see a
well,
lot more Impossible products in the freezer section.
to those girls, I want to say first of all, find Joe and save Joe from himself. Be a good wife to him, and make out of Joe a good man.
I don't think that's possible, Lord.
About the world and the environment, go to Joe. But the more important thing is this. To me, I just had actually just last weekend I had a double Impossible burger with double cheese, fake cheese, of course. And it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. It's not something that I would want to have every week, but once a month I have something like that, like a fake chicken sandwich, like spicy hot chicken, that I get from a place called Never Caged here. But I would rather, for the most part, I would rather eat falafel. You know, like if I'm gonna eat something outside, or I would rather eat Indian food.
So is it called an impossible burger because it's that fucking disgusting? It's impossible to finish it.
Well, actually, BS aside,
It's
quite
not too
liked
bad.
it for a bit, honestly. But my problem was I would have like an Impossible patty. Like I would buy the ones that you get at the grocery stores and shit. I would have them every single time. I would notoriously get sick, gag, and not want to eat for the rest of the day. Like maybe that's how people lose the weight from eating Impossible burgers, but they taste all right. They taste a little bit like peanut butter to me. Poorly
I like peanut
butter,
butter.
but it tastes okay. It's just I don't know. My stomach does not like it at all.
To me, the problem actually, I know you guys will probably hate me for saying this and say it's like, a vegan cliche, but the human being just gets used to what you do. We are creatures of habit, right? So for me, actually, the reason I don't like these products is it reminds me too much of actual meat. Because I remember when I first went vegetarian, you still had these kinds of products, like, that was like a vegan patty for a burger. It was still made of like, lentils and black beans and whatever. And it was pretty primitive. It would crumble into pieces as you were biting into the burger. And it would taste nothing like meat. It would still be nourishing. It would still have a lot of protein, but no flavor of the limbs and organs of another animal, right? So that was good for me. Nowadays, again, I'm not above it. I still go for it once every so often, but usually I'm just left, like I can't cook it at home. Like they have these Italian sausages beyond the other major brand. There's Beyond, there's Impossible. There are other brands that are becoming more and more popular. I can't cook them at home anymore. They have these Italian sausages from Beyond. It smells exactly like the meat sausages do. And it drives me insane. I can't take it. Like I'm just not used to it anymore.
Right. But to be fair, that is the whole point of all these Impossible or Beyond lists, to get it as close to meat as possible without actually making it meat. So they add questionable chemicals, I would assume. Without actually looking at labels. That would be a safe assumption. Because they're trying to get the average meat consumer to say, you know what, I no longer want this, Angus porterhouse that's been raised to perfection and these these fries plus the bourbon. I want grass on my plate. I want the soy patty. I want ground up grass. I want blended grass and the mildew as my drink. That's what they want. That's what they want. They want to brainwash us into thinking that eating like one of my sheep is the new trend. It's in the water. It's in the air. I urge you guys to resist the new fake meat craze. It's fake news.
I didn't say this channel is open to everyone for no reason. You have a panel here. One of the guy is taking the complete piss out of me. The other one clearly belongs to some sort of lobby that's still trying to advocate for industrial meat. But I welcome them. They're still my friends.
You know what? You take it.
Yeah, it's
you take it well, mate.
Huh?
I was just saying, Lord, you take it well, mate.
No, I mean, look, as I said, I don't take myself too seriously. This is how I'm trying to live my life, but it doesn't define me. And I know that I have my imperfections, and I know that I'm in no position to impose anything or dictate anything to anyone else. So it's easy, man. It comes naturally, honestly, because I blame myself all the time. So, and I make fun of myself all the time as well. So it's normal.
Right. You can't laugh at yourself, What's the point?
Yeah, especially on YouTube. If you're gonna do live streams, you have to have some sense of humor. Otherwise, you can't last for too long.
Well, you can't be a fucking snowflake, can you? Otherwise, you'll be done in a day.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, it depends on who you are. Like what was his name? The Toad Man, Cane Toad. There we go, Cane Toad. He was actually a really cool dude, but and I still don't know what happened to him. I just heard the rumor that Archie poked at him one too many times, and I guess but in Archie's defense, I guess Cane Toad was talking a lot about his personal life. But that's on Archie's show. That's a double-edged sword. Because he definitely likes to have that material in his playbook. So you kind of do set yourself up for that. But I mean, look at Mike the Snake. I mean, he'll every now and then he'll engage in the conversation of the chat. But you know what? I'll give it to Mike. Even though he gets a little flames, he comes back and he's not afraid. Mike's really toughened up over the last couple of weeks now that he's been on the streams.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck you, Joe.
Oh, fuck you, yeah. Thank you for your opinion. It doesn't matter though.
This one time, a bank camp.
Yeah, no disrespect to the state.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, we love Mike.
I
love Mike. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's great. He's
nice
pretty
guy.
Great. Guys, I was thinking of wrapping it up because I actually didn't eat, and it's getting to be quite late to eat at this point here. So I want to take any last words or questions you have, or if you want to flame me a little more, roast me a little more.
I'll write my questions on like a Deirdre for tomorrow.
So I will next live stream. I will just name that Lord Hellespont's vegan roast or something like that, and we can just
put in parentheses, but there won't actually be an actual roast.
I think that would be actually the best trolling. I open a stream like that, and Joe comes, in front of a barbecue or something, turns his meat around.
Really, the whole time.
So basically, you've come on to talk about watches and you've just been abused. It's what it is.
I don't mind.
No jokes. It's just jokes.
It's love to, it's just lovely to have you both here. And Joe has put in actually a lot of work today because we also went through every piece of his collection, and he was so generous to share it with us. So if you are interested in that, go to the earlier video where we talk through all the 7 watches and the stories that came with them.
Yeah.
I think it was a beautiful, beautiful collection to behold and review and talk about. So it was a pleasure for me, Joe. Thanks.
No,
for
I'll definitely catch up on that.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Just it's or rather an honor just to be on your show, Lord, and be able to do something like that.
Thank you. I think you're being really kind. On that note, if you want your collections to be reviewed, this is absolutely free of charge until the end of month of March. You just send an email to that email address that's connected to the PayPal, just the Gmail, Lord Hellespont, Lord Hellespont V @gmail.com. Send me a few pictures if you want, even videos, and send me a time also that works for you. State it in your time. I'll be able to convert it to mine, and we will try to schedule something that has you as part of the conversation, rather than me passively reviewing your collection. I really like the fact that we could build up these 2 reviews as organic conversations, and we will have the Jamie Opulence collection next week on Saturday. So keep your eyes peeled.
Sir Topham had Jamie.
Yeah, it will be beautiful, as the first 2 have been. Plastic also has his collection review, the exemplary Rolex man, a beacon of loyalty. That's also a great video, if you ask me. Again, thanks to Plastic, not me. It's great to have you all in this platform. If you have any questions, if you want to request any reviews, any kind of video about the history of a brand or a particular model, if you want me to advise you on a new purchase, I would love to do that. Send me an email in the same way, or drop a comment under any of the videos. I read them, I respond to them, and I will try to help you out. If you want to help me out, I have all these Amazon links when I talk about books in that particular video. If you're interested in the book, try to buy it through that link. It will help me reach the associate level, so I can actually make a small fraction on these purchases at some point. Until I get to 1,000 viewers, which is my most important goal at this point. So you like, subscribe, and tell all your friends. If you want to help me, if you're feeling generous until then, of course, you can always PayPal me or Cash App me, and I will be more than grateful. So thank you for everything. Everyone in the chat, thank you for participating. Danny, Joe, J6177, GB Vul, Alex, LA Methwich, Chunkster, even though he counted me out as a Spurs fan, La Macchina, who else? I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anyone. I think this is just saying. Yeah, everyone, Mike P, Night Diver, who was here earlier, MLMJ, of course, all these people who have come here and contributed in some way. I appreciate you, Mario Vieira, and thank you for everything. Mathis, Pluto, say Pluto. Thank you. I love you. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your contribution. Take care.
Can I just say one more thing before you go?
Of course.
For £10 a month, you can sponsor a vegan to eat meat. Sorry,
Danny,
mate.
I'm putting it out there. You want to see me eat meat? Get me to 1,000 subscribers. Get this channel monetized. And the minute someone drops in the maximum amount of super chat, once I can get super chats, which is $500, let's choose something suggestive. I'll eat a Hebrew National hot dog on the screen.
Nah, for
Man,
$500, I
don't-
expect you to eat a full porterhouse. Nah, for $500, nah.
I was just gonna,
all I can do.
I was just gonna come with words of wisdom and say to you, don't do that if that's what you believe in. Don't go against it for some deals. But and then Meat said about the steak, and it sounds good.
I'm not going for it for a 10-pound, but as a one-time opportunity, if you really want to make me eat meat, 500 super chat, I will eat the sausage.
That sausage better be like, a 20-pound sausage.
He's going to eat sausage. Times are hard. He's going to eat sausage for a few dollars. And for latest videos, check out Fans Only.
I've seen both Diego and Tim eat bananas on the screen, for nothing at all. So,
Hey, may as well.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All
this
right.
was
Thank
live.
you.
I will see you all quite soon. Bye bye until then.
Nice one.